welcome to Conversation for the Soul. I'm Alleson Gregary, and tonight we have Shanaya Bevelle, and she is a quantum channel with a myriad of healing technologies and beings of the highest source light, working to assist others in raising their vibration by clearing densities and inorganic programming, increasing the frequencies of vitality of the physical and the energetic being. Welcome, Shanaya. It's so wonderful to have you here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right. Well, I always like to start with just finding out how everybody's journey began. When did you come into your awakening? Were you born with it, or did you float in and out of it like a lot of us? Or how did that unfold for you?
For me, it essentially started when I became really ill with heavy metal poisoning. And the healing I had always tried to do with the light that seemed like it would work and never had up to that point. I worked on it diligently until it actually started working. But for me, it had nothing to do with healing the physical and everything to do with healing the energetic, which was what was causing the physical issues. So the blockages, essentially in the solar plexus, the liver, was what was causing the body to retain the heavy metals instead of processing them out. So I had a huge amount of heavy metal toxicity in my body, and working with the light, which finally started to work, to process out childhood traumas and, father issues and all of those things that so many of us have. That is what started me being able to release the toxins out of the liver. So it was a twofold thing for me, but that's when it started. And I would say it was probably a good 3-year process before, I would be considered what most people call awakened. As far as like my vibration being at a certain level and the energy field being at a certain clarity to be able to flow light through.
Gotcha. What year was this?
When I started, probably around 2016, maybe. Okay. Not too long ago. It's been fairly recent. Now I have always been an empath in this lifetime, which I was not aware existed until like maybe 2 years ago. So I have always taken on energy from others and processed it for them. My childhood to me was scary. My brother has no such memories because all of his scary came to me. And I know. And that was always obvious to me, but yeah, it was never obvious to me that I actually did that I took his energy, even though like thinking back, I realized that I did. So the idea of being an empath was just something that was introduced to me probably 2 years ago. And as soon as I heard it, I said, that's me. And that's part of what causes some people to hold on to energies, because you're taking everything from everyone else. And if you can't process it out, it gets stored somewhere. And when you're an empath, you bring in a lot of stuff because you're trying to process for everyone else that can't process their own stuff. So I had kind of more than one thing going on at a time. It's been a bit of a road.
So how did you find out about the heavy metal poisoning? How did that present itself?
I got really, really sick. And the doctors, multiple doctors over several years, were absolutely no help. And the symptoms were really oddball things and really random, like they'd come and go. Like one day I might have heart palpitations, but it wouldn't happen again for 3 months. Or it might be shortness of breath. And again, it might not happen again for months. Headaches and nausea and muscle cramps, joint pain. Honestly, like the list is endless. I sat down one day and wrote a list, and it was 40 symptoms long because it was more than one metal. It was mercury from the fillings in my mouth and the vaccines I'd gotten from working in healthcare for so long. And then I had You see the lovely little stained glass windows?
Yes.
Well, they're from a 16th century church in England, and they have genuine lead caming in them, which I didn't think of till probably the third or fourth day I was working on. So lead poisoning, literally from the windows, because they were falling apart. They were dry rotted, and I didn't want to lose the pieces, and so I literally like put them back together again. So that was on top of the mercury, and then there was aluminum, and there was several others that were like smaller, barium is a heavy metal. How many people have had a barium swallow test? Well, I had one of those, so that was one of the metals that turned up when I had a test. Aluminum, most people have aluminum exposure. It's in the pots and pans we use. It's in the deodorant we use. It's in a lot of things. So, when you pile all those things on top of each other. So I was really, really sick. Just getting out of bed was a trial. I was hypersensitive to everything. Everything in the environment, from mold to dust to pollen, would make me really ill. I would get massive headaches. I'd get dizzy. I'd get nauseous. Chemicals, perfumes, laundry detergents, anything that smelled, again, nausea, headaches, near passing out from going into a trailer at work, because the trailers are loaded with volatile organic compounds. It's really strong when you walk in there. Same thing. Like I several times almost passed out at work because they had the temporary trailers that we had to work in. So that went on, honestly, for about 3 years. And there were times when my food sensitivities were so severe that I literally could eat 3 things that wouldn't make me sick. And sometimes the 3 things were not yummy things. It was like kale. I don't even like kale, but that's what I could tolerate. So that's what I ate. So 3 years. And then every time I'd look on the internet and I'd put in, a list of like my top symptoms, it would come up with lead poisoning and mercury poisoning. And I'm like, where's the lead? Where's the mercury? Like, but people don't realize that a lot of that stuff we're exposed to on a daily basis, and we just don't even know it. And who would have thought, like, it was only 3 days, so who would have thought that it would have been a big deal? It was a couple of hours of handling them, again, like, people don't realize how many toxins we're exposed to and how much goes through your skin. Even like our cosmetics and our laundry detergent, all that goes into your skin, and it all makes a difference in how your body can process light. So, it was a bit of a road.
All the years we wrapped food in aluminum foil.
Yes.
And it's
cooked it in aluminum foil, add the heat to it, with the baked potatoes and the corn on the cob and all that. And it works wonderfully. It makes an amazing meal. But yes, then the whole thing is just coated in aluminum residue. Yes. Yeah. And people don't realize it.
Somebody's demanding to come see you, I guess.
Oh, hi, kitty. Oh, this is Meow Meow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't call him by his real name. Wow. So what on that path made you go, wow, things are not as I've been seeing them? And now, you go, I mean, you're in energy healing. So what kind of led you down that path?
So I had heard more than once over the years about healing with the light. And I had tried it several times and it never worked. But it was one of those things where I know it works. Let me try it again. And I found a YouTube video from someone online that did this process, and her thing was removing trauma. And I had also heard, most of us have, I'm sure, that removing trauma can help your energy levels. Like it can help, raise your vibration, and because it releases dense energies. That made sense to me. And I knew I had a lot of trauma from childhood. So I used her method to start releasing trauma. And I realized, hey, this is working, because all that stuff that really used to make me angry about my father, suddenly it was all like neutralized. Like it was still there. And it was still like, yeah, that was a sucky thing to do. But it wasn't like anymore. It was more like, he didn't get it. I mean, it was, that's just the way he was. And, it's done and gone, and everything was just neutral. And so I realized that the light was working, because everything was just neutralizing as I was pulling this light in and sending this stuff like back to source. So that got me started. And then I literally worked the first year on just releasing like family related traumas. So it was a long year, but I've learned over the time that I've, probably 3 or 4 years now, how to do things a lot more quickly and how to get like the assistance of guides and angels and that sort of thing to kind of help to move the light a little faster and make it more powerful. So that helps a lot. Trying to think.
Explain what you mean by work with the light for people that may not understand that vernacular.
So the light, it's divine frequency. All the light that that I work with is divine frequency. It can be from different light beings, but it's all divine frequency. It's all like a high level, high vibrational light. It can come from God's source. It can come from the angels. It can come from ascended masters. It can come from galactic guides. It depends on who is associated with you. And everybody has somebody that's associated with them. Some people, like I work with a really wide range of beings. I have all of those in my list. And I actually wrote down a list of everyone who was going to be with us during the podcast tonight. And I can tell you that in just a second. There's a pretty good list here, mostly angels. And some people just focus on like one group. Like I have one friend who only does angels. I have another friend that only does galactics. But it, and some people don't even know or have no idea. And, sometimes you don't need to know. It doesn't really matter as long as you're working with highest light. You just need to make sure that you are always requesting the highest light, highest intention, highest benevolence, so that you get those highest light beings and highest light energy to essentially come and join you. They can be channeled through you. Like when you ground, for instance, a lot of people are familiar with grounding. So when you ground, one good way to do it is to imagine source and just bring a beam of light all the way down from source and bring it all the way right down through your chakras, through your feet, down to the center of the earth, and just hook it into the center, crystalline center of the earth. And then you're connected to earth and you're connected to source. And it runs all the way through all of your chakras. And then just imagine that line of light just staying there and just hold it. And it doesn't matter if you can feel it. If you imagine it being there with your intention, then it'll be there. Right. So, and people don't realize that. Like I can feel the energy, so I know when it's there. But a lot of people can't feel it and they don't realize. But if you just bring it into your imagination, through your intention of having it there and wanting it there, it will be there. You create it yourself. Yeah. So that's something important to know for people that don't feel the light or see the light. Is just your intention. You can create it being there by asking it to come and then knowing that it's there. And it can go, you can put it wherever you want it. If you have, migraines, then bring it to your head. If you have, digestive issues, then bring it to your gut. Wherever you need the light, request it and bring it there. It is always a good idea to ground first, because if the light is coming straight through you and going to ground, you have a much stronger connection. And it also, you're going to bring through more light if all of your chakras are connected. So if you have, for example, a lot of people have issues with their solar plexus. So the solar plexus may not be connected to the heart, or maybe not connected to the sacral. So if you've got that opening there, then the light's going to come down and it's going to stop like right here, and it's not going to continue. But if you ground and you bring that light all the way through first, at least for a while, you're going to have a connection there because you have just set it in place with your intention. So ground first, bring it all the way down through all your chakras into the earth and connect it to source, and do both. And then bring light in wherever you want to bring it. And again, you can bring it from anywhere you want. You can bring it from the angels. You can bring it from source. Galactics, if you have galactics, I would say for anybody that would like to work with their galactics, you need to make sure that every time you bring galactic light in, you are asking for highest light, highest intention, highest integrity, highest benevolence. They're not all good guys. Yeah. Kind of like here on Earth. Not everybody's a good guy. And sometimes there's wolves in sheep's clothing. I've run into a few of those.
Yeah.
They were not good experiences. So I would
Mhm.
caution everybody, if you're going to work with the Galactics, you make sure you state that every time, to make sure that whoever you're bringing in is going to be only the highest of everything. You always want the highest of everything. So precautionary statement.
Why wouldn't you recommend everybody go straight to source? Is it sometimes good to go as well, like calling light from your angelic team? Why wouldn't you just circumvent that? Because wouldn't it be better to go straight to source?
It can be. I usually, well, I can feel it, but source isn't always the one that steps right out and wants to be the one to help you right now. Like that is not always the vibration or the light or the help that you need at this moment. It's kind of like with any other thing, do I want Susie to help me with this project, or do I want Megan to help me with this project? Well, Megan's much more organized. Susie's great to go to lunch with, but I'd rather have Megan for this. You know what I mean? So It depends on what you're doing. So as to who you're going to call.
So angelics might have different purposes or different abilities that you would want to utilize.
Yes. And honestly, I don't follow, I've looked them up in a book, and there's a list of, this one does these things and this one does these. I open it up and I call in, the highest light, intelligence, integrity, benevolence, all that. And I see who comes in. Michael's almost always there. Metatron is usually there. Ariel has been very common lately. Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, they come on a regular basis. They're on the list. I was supposed to tell you the list. But they're there on a regular basis because they are in most people's toolkit. Most people have those archangels, or some of them. Most people that I've worked with have at least one archangel that is in their group. Now, the angels do, as I said, technically, there's a list of what they're supposed to do, but they don't seem to follow that for me. It seems more to me that they come for the people they're assigned to, is what I get. I don't get it that, Michael is supposed to be only for, I'm trying to think even what's on his list, because I use him for so many things. I don't think that I could narrow him down to one thing, but it's not just clearing energy. He has a list probably 20 things long and honestly, he can do almost anything. If I come up with something and I'm like, how do I do this? Is this something I can do myself? And I get a no, then I'm like, okay, well, who can help me? Almost always Michael comes forward, and then I just kind of feel into the energy. And usually I can see I can see what they're showing me. Like, what am I supposed to do with the energy? Where is it supposed to go? What am I supposed to do with it? But for other people that, aren't able to kind of see the light or feel the light, anyone can use muscle testing to essentially talk with their guides. As long as you do not already have the answer in your head, muscle testing is very accurate. But if you already think you know the answer, your conscious mind can overrule your subconscious mind. So if you are 100% sure that that's Michael with you right now, and really it's Ariel, when you do your muscle testing, you're probably going to get a yes, it's Michael, because it's Michael. So therefore, okay. So muscle testing, there's many different ways. I'll show you very briefly my way, because it's easy. I just use my wrist. I put my dominant wrist, my strong hand rather, on top of my non-dominant, and I just push down. So, and what you want to do when you start doing it is you just want to say, show me a yes. So I'll say, show me a yes, and I'm going to push, and I'm going to resist with the other hand. I can't push that hand down. It's not going anywhere. It's not moving even like a tiny fraction. Now, if I say, show me a no, I can't hold it up. No matter what I do, it goes down. Okay. And then a maybe is somewhere in the middle. I can get percentages. If I want to know how much of a problem is that thing, whatever it is, and then I push on my wrist, it might go down. Okay. See, that just moved an inch. So that's 90% because it only went down this far. So I can literally get kind of a, how much is that thing bothering me versus how much is this thing bothering me? Or How much is my father responsible for that problem versus how much is my husband responsible for that problem? As far energetically, I'm talking about that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things you can do with muscle testing. And so people who can't feel energy or see energy, but want to work with energy, that's an amazing way to get things going. And you can literally muscle test for who's coming today. Who is it coming today? Is it Michael? Yes or no? Now you have to do a yes, no, true, false question. You can't, it's not going to give you sentences. It's got to be, so you have to phrase it as a yes, no, true, false. But that will tell you, for those people who don't have, clairvoyant, clairsentient abilities, who's with you, what you're doing. You can ask, obviously, a myriad of questions and get answers from your guides, because you can specifically say, Michael, can you tell me? And then ask your question. And Michael specifically will answer you because you're asking him. So
what are your thoughts on the pendulum?
Same thing. The pendulum works the same way. I don't think I have anything here I can use, but it's the same. It's the same concept. It works differently. And you can use your body as a pendulum as well. So the pendulum, you need to just hold it really still without moving your hand. And you do the same thing. Show me a yes. And if you hold it really still, and it will start to spin in one direction or the other. And yes is always going to be the same direction. And then when you say, show me a no, it literally will slow down. It'll slowly stop and it'll start to go the other way. It literally, it's the weirdest thing, but it works, but it's slow. So you push on your hand, you're like, got an answer, done. The pendulum, you're like, okay, let's see. It works. It absolutely works. And for people that like that way, I say more power to you, but I want the answer like right now. And you can also, the way I started was to use my body as a pendulum. So if you stand just really straight, like feet shoulder width apart, and you stand nice and straight up and you ask your questions. And again, you want to start with like, show me a yes and show me a no. For me, yes goes forward and no goes back. And literally your entire body, it will start to fall. Like you're going to have to put your foot out to catch yourself. You'll fall one direction or another. My yes is usually forward and my no is usually back. And not everybody is the same. So everybody needs to test and ask, what does my yes look like? And what does my no look like for any of these kind of testing things?
Yeah, I prefer, that's my go-to method. I found that the pendulum for me somehow is inaccurate. So I don't know if something else comes in and circumvents me in that situation or what, but the muscle testing of the leaning forward and backwards has always done me well.
There's something else in the pendulum. There's another energy that's interfering with the pendulum. Do you know what it is? No. I tell you, no, I don't know what it is. Does she know what it is? You know what it is.
Oh, okay.
It's not a person. It's galactic energy. It feels like a not positive galactic energy that has a connection to you somewhere, some way, and they're coming through the pendulum. Would a different pendulum work? Do you have more than one?
No.
A different one would work. It's almost like that one you have, like, I don't want to say infected, but it's affected by something else that you've had a connection to at some point that is still in there. It doesn't feel like you still have a connection to whatever it is, like you've cleared that, but the energy of it is still in the pendulum. So it's affecting the spin. Try a different pendulum. Like even if you have, like I have necklaces that are just like little quartz things.
Yeah.
Put it on a chain.
Oh, I have a rosary I could use.
Yeah. And it just needs to be something that's weighted on the end, and try that and see if you get accurate answers.
Yeah.
You likely are going to get accurate answers because whatever it is, it feels like it's gone. It's not there anymore. So I think if you got a different pendulum or something else to use as a pendulum.
And it's not clearable, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's clearable.
Okay.
What color is your pendulum?
Purple. It's amethyst.
That's what I was going to say. Okay. Can we can. Okay. Hold on. Do you want to clear it right now?
Oh, I don't know where it is right now.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
You don't need it. I need to get my amethyst out, and we're going to redo your amethyst with the correct frequency.
Yeah,
and then anybody else who's got amethyst, we'll clear everybody's amethyst. All right. So let me see what else we need. This is an interesting little sideline here. You want this one? You want anything else? Okay. So I just have this. This is cool little, it looks like a little mountain. All right, where do we need it? Right here? Okay. We need other stones. We need some selenite. Anything else? Which selenite do we need? This one? Okay. Oh, this is interesting. A little heart selenite. Okay, and I'm gonna put them together. So the energy essentially is going to be pulled through, it's going to be cleared, and then it's going to be sent back. All right, so I'm going to put it right here. Right there. All right, so let me see, hold on. Because when I visualized your pendulum, it was an amethyst and it was purple. So it's interesting that the energy of it was shown to me. That feels like that's one of your guides that was showing me that. Hold on, it was angelic. Yes, angels. Hold on, let me just go ahead and pull this energy through. Who wants to help with this? We got some help? Michael, Ariel, Raphael. That's it. Okay, Michael, Ariel, and Raphael. So they're going to pull through, and I'm going to bring it through the channel. The proper frequency for amethyst. So anybody that has an amethyst that listens to your podcast will be able to clear their amethyst if there's any energies in it that don't belong. So let's bring through Michael, Ariel, Raphael, the proper energy, the appropriate frequency for amethyst. We're going to bring it down. We're going to bring it right into this crystal. It's going to go through the selenite and then come back up. And then it is going to go to your pendulum and to everyone's amethyst in whatever form it's in. It could be jewelry. It could be a rock similar to what I have that just kind of sits on the desk. It could be a pendulum, anything, any amethyst that anyone has. All right. So it's just permeating all of the stones. And this is not going to take but a few seconds. It'll be very quick. Good. Okay, they said we're good. All right. So yeah, see if you get better answers now. But you also could use a different pendulum. Anytime you get like weird things like that, try something else, because sometimes there's an energy that's affecting whatever it is you're trying to do. The same thing like when you do muscle testing. If you do muscle testing and you start getting weird answers, whoever you're asking, like sometimes if you're asking you, this may not apply, but if you're asking, for example, Michael, and you're getting wonky answers, it might not be Michael who's answering you. So you need to ask that question.
Yeah. I always connect to source before I do it.
All right. And that will help because then you'll be cleared. I worked with a fake Metatron for 8 months a couple of years ago before I realized, I'm like, why do I get these wonky answers? That doesn't make sense. Why would I do that?
Oh, wow.
And now that I can, understand all this stuff, back then I was still kind of new and I didn't really get it. But what I got recently when I asked about it, because I wanted to understand, like, how did I end up doing that for so long without realizing that a lot of the answers I was getting made no sense. Like this, why would I do that? But I did because my guide, told me I should do it. It was like 60% of the time that it was not the right Metatron. So be aware. It's, you have to ask for the highest, right? The highest light, the highest benevolence. You want the Metatron. You don't want anybody else. So be aware that can happen. It does not happen often. It's not like a regular thing. But for anyone who's having weird, wonky issues with energy, that could be part of it. Is it could be who is coming in for you is not highest light, even if you might think they are. So be aware. If you have an energy like that, you literally can dismiss them. You can say, this energy that has been helping me with such and such a problem, you are now dismissed. Thank you, and so it is. And then you call in the real guy. Yeah, you literally, any energy that you dismiss is dismissed. Like you're done. You're gone. And that usually works. There are other situations where if things are like really embedded or they're attached to other things, like just dismissing it doesn't get rid of it. But if it's somebody literally you're calling in to help you with something, they're not like embedded in your energy field and all that. So dismissing them usually works. that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So I love all this, the quantum world is so magical because, it doesn't, you can turn off the logical brain.
Yes.
Things just are and can happen. And it's so fluid and interesting.
Fascinating. Yes. Yes. And a lot of the sessions I do usually end up being really fascinating where, we might start out thinking that we're working on like, I don't know, a mother problem or something. And we end up going down this rabbit hole and finding out that, the entire house is infested with some kind of nasty energy. And not only is it in that house, but it's in the house you were in before and the house you were in before. And we end up like, instead of working on what we were supposed to, because this energy is so dense and affecting everything else, we end up working on all of that energy and clearing the house and clearing. I've had to clear wood and furniture and the basement and the land under the house. And because there were energies there that were affecting what they were trying to do, like they couldn't clear stuff because all these energies were literally holding on to those densities because they all like attract together, they magnetize together. So if you have a really low density energy, like if you had, a horrible mother who's really not mother of the year material, and you're holding on to all these really low, dense energies, that frequency right there attracts more of that frequency.
Yes. Wow.
So you can end up with piles of that frequency, and it's going to be wherever you've stuffed it away. A lot of people put that in the solar plexus because, if it's a parent issue, they're going to be controlling you. So it's going to go in your power center where you store it. Sometimes it goes in the throat because you don't have a say. It can go other places, but those are the two main places that energies tend to be if it's a parent issue, sometimes sacral as well. But some of those issues can be difficult to release because there are so many connections everywhere. And sometimes there's connections to other times and places, and it can get complicated.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes, but there's a lot of ways that energy can affect a person.
Well, I was just going to ask, what is the most mind-blowing session that you had where you were just like, I would have never saw that coming in a million years?
I have done the one person that I did several sessions with, whose goal was to connect with their galactics. And they knew they were there, but there wasn't a lot of information to start with. And we ended up, over the course of a couple of months, setting up grid connections and going to all of these places, grid locations on the earth, like Mount Shasta and the Bosnian pyramids. And, I'm not remembering the names of them all, Uluru, all those places that are considered like sacred, and we know their grid locations are high vibrational energy. We went to all those places in session, and the galactics were there to bring in energy. And then oftentimes it went through the grid and went to the client. Sometimes it was sent to somewhere near his house. One time it went to a tree. The next day he went to the tree, put his hands on the tree, was like, oh my God, what a rush. Like he literally got this huge rush when he touched the tree. But those sessions were fascinating because everything was galactic. There was very little of anything angelic in there. Source never showed up. And they were all galactic connections to the earth. They were reestablishing the earth grid is what they were doing. So this person was part of his responsibility, apparently in this lifetime, his mission was to reestablish the strength of the frequency of these grid locations. And we probably did 10 or 12 of them. There was a lot. And it was many sessions, but there was a lot that ended up getting accomplished. Absolutely fascinating stuff I've never seen. We went into like these, I can't the name of the mountain escapes me. It's in Turkey, Ararat. We went to Mount Ararat, which turned out to be one of the bigger places. We went back to it multiple times. And we went into like this void space. Well, it was the divine neutrality. It was like zero zero energy in there. And we literally walked into this gate and everything was like gray. It wasn't dark. It wasn't scary. It was nothing. It was neutral. It was just neutrality, divine neutrality in this space. And then there was this really interesting ceremony that took place with the Galactics and the client and me facilitating it all. But the interesting part was like through all of this, like it seemed really fanciful, when we were doing it, and not during the session, but afterwards I was like, wow, that was pretty deep. That was interesting. Never seen that stuff before, because it was at that time, like I hadn't done a lot of galactic work, like for myself, but not for others. So it was absolutely fascinating to go to all those places and make those grid locations, but then to have them contact me later and be like, you wouldn't believe what happened.
Wow.
So there was a lot of results from that, and a lot of leveling up that happened with their energy field and with their abilities. Yeah. So they ended up actually, one of their goals was to speak light language, and within 3 months they were speaking 5 languages fluently. So it was very, very energizing. So that was fascinating. That was fun.
So for people, like say somebody really is not to the point yet where they can discern, do I have angelic guides? Do I have galactic guides? Who might be around me? What is it a deity? What might it be? How would you advise somebody to learn to start to discern that for themselves?
Actually, a lot of my discernment came from using muscle testing.
Okay.
So, because in the beginning, I could tell pretty much when it was angels, but if galactics came, like I didn't know, because I couldn't tell. I didn't understand what their energy felt like. So even before I could really discern what the energies were, the angels usually came to me like I could see a light. I didn't know who they were, but I could see a light, and I was like, I think that's angelic. Muscle test it. And then I figured out who they were. But for me in the beginning, I just did muscle testing to learn who was coming to me and what were they doing. But again, as I mentioned before, I had that fake Metatron for several months.
Yeah.
And when I muscle tested, it was like, yeah, Metatron. I'm Metatron. So I kind of let it slide. But at that point in time, this is a couple of years ago, I didn't realize you had to ask for the highest light, integrity, benevolence, all that. So if you don't ask, you don't get. So make sure that, whenever you do any kind of light work, or you're bringing anybody in, or you're talking to anybody that, is, you hope highest light, that you ask for highest light.
Yeah.
Or you might not get it.
Yeah. So when you look at the planet, Shanaya, what do you see? What's going on in this now moment energetically? And can you tell where it might be going?
I don't see a real lot with the Earth unless someone is connected to that during a session. Like that one person had a lot of grid location links, and they were very connected to the grid. So then I can see the grid because I'm working with them. I do have a lot of connection to the Earth. I can see portals and things like that are coming from the Earth. I can see like if there are galactic locations on the Earth, I can usually tell where those are, but that's more of I feel the energy, like I can feel the pressure. If I take my head to that place, I can feel pressure on my field if there's a galactic presence there or whatever, and I can feel who it is in the energy. But I don't really have, currently anyway, the ability, although new abilities show up every day. So everybody can work on that, because literally new stuff shows up every day. I don't really have the ability to look at the Earth and say, well, there's something going on here, something going on there. I mean, if I like looking right now, I can kind of tell where there are densities, but it's not like where the energy is heavier. But I don't really have something where I can like look at the collective or look at the Earth and give you any kind of like diagnosis. I do it just when I connect to people in session, I'm connecting to their energy, and wherever they are connecting to, that's what I can see. So Yeah. Even though I'm connected to the earth, I'm not. Yeah. See, because you're looking at something else. Like I can tell you energies that are in the ground that are not good and where they are. But you're talking more about like the earth's surface and what's affecting people and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't see that specifically. I see what I connect to when I work with people as far as like what's on the surface of the earth. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense. And you're right. It could change any day. Who knows?
Yes. Yes.
So I know it's very important to always ask permission before you go into somebody's energy field.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you just bounce in and out of, because we're all sovereign beings and we have free will and that sort of thing. But have you ever been in a public scenario where you just saw somebody coming and the energy was either so bright or so ooey gooey thick and dense that you were just like, whoa, something weird's going on there?
Yeah. It's probably for a good year or so now, a little more than a year. It's gotten to where like when somebody's coming, I know if they have dense energy, like 30 feet away, I'm like, ooh, let me try to get a little more berth. Let me go around them a little wider, you know? Yeah. I can feel people's energy at a distance and know whether they have a lot of density on board. And for me, because I feel often, thankfully not as often, outside energies that are not mine, as pressure on my field or as pain, physical pain. I mean, I know, like somebody will walk into the room and they'll walk by me and I'll be like, ow, like just shooting through my head. And I'm like, okay, we got to clear that. So I bring in Michael and Ashtar and Metatron and I clear that person and I clear the room and I send it all back to source. And then literally this just like goes away. It's gone. Wow. So yeah. But honestly, like, because I feel everything, it's something I do all day long. Every room I go into, I clear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
now, I totally forgot to ask you this at the beginning. So when you were going through your awakening and all of this, how did you know energy work was going to be your thing? How did that present to you?
I didn't in the beginning, other than I thought it was really cool. And then probably about a year into it, it might be right over there. Let's see if I can get it. I wrote a card out, like my guides. At that time, I didn't really get a lot of words, but they literally like gave me these words and I'm like, oh, I got to write that down. And literally what they said I was going to be doing is what I turned out doing like 2 or 3 years later.
Wow.
This file. Here it is. Sorry, falling over. All right. It's eerily accurate. This is 2 years ago, before I started doing all this. I will help people ascend and raise in consciousness. Let's see. There are easy, fast ways to clear the energy field. It's about unblocking the flow of energy. I will clear energy meridians with universal energy, allowing people to ascend and enlarge the pool of people ready and going to 5D. So I will aid people in connecting to the universal grid. I will talk to their soul and know why they are stuck, then apply light rays to free up energy flow through the chakra system.
Wow.
And this is a couple of years ago, before I even, like, this even was even a tiny little inkling. And that's why I wrote it down, because I was like, for real? Like, how am I going to do that? That doesn't even, I'm doing it for me, but yeah. So it fascinated me. And so I wrote it down, and then it was probably at least a year and a half later. It wasn't like a huge long time, but it was a while. And I realized, you know what, like, I'm doing that thing now that I wrote down like so long ago. So it was about a good 2 or 3 years into the process, because the whole first year was just like releasing family trauma. It's all trauma and drama is what I used to call it when I released it. So that was a whole year of just that. And then the second year was more, I still had some of that stuff to release. And then I worked on trying to find the energies that were relating to the heavy metal poisoning, what was holding it in, and trying to figure that whole thing out. And then by the third year, then I was getting more into work, like, manipulating the light in a positive way, bringing light in for certain things, bringing it into certain people and seeing like what would happen. And obviously not like just random people, but but it wasn't uncommon for me to like see somebody limping and be like, Michael, send a little light over here, that kind of thing. But so that was kind of interesting that it came to me so long ago, and then that's actually ended up what happening, because that's what I do, which is kind of cool.
Neat.
Yeah,
very neat.
Yeah.
So Shanaya said she'd do a little gift for us tonight and do a clearing of those solar plexus.
Yeah. So let's do that. Let me tell you, because I didn't get to it earlier, who was here today, because I asked before I even got on with you, who was going to be with us throughout the podcast. So these beings have been here through the entire thing. So everyone who listens at any point essentially is bathing in the energies of these light beings. So we have Michael, Ashtar, Commander Ashtar, Metatron, Raphael, Gabriel, Ariel, Uriel, Haniel, Sandalphon, Zadkiel. Those are all archangels. Then the Elohim, Lakshmi, who's an ascended master, my Arcturian guide, and that's it. So a really huge group is here. And they also were going to be here for the process that we're going to do. So most people have challenges in their solar plexus because anytime that you have essentially family challenges, it's typically going to be stored there. Anything you can't process out or anything you don't want to deal with, I'm done with that. Okay, I'm done with that isn't processed out. I'm done with that, gets it stuck away somewhere. So most people have that kind of stuff because most people don't have a perfect family. So there's going to be something in there somewhere. So let's start with calling in all the light beings because we're going to go through the whole process, making sure that everybody's here. We've got all the highest light and all of that before we start our process, and then I'll see who comes in to bring us some light. So calling in all the energy of all the spaces, the places, the light beings of only the highest light, intention, integrity, and benevolence, who can work with us today in bringing in only the highest light, the highest healing, the highest outcome possible, all with the utmost of ease and grace. I can connect each individual to their own divine healing field of the highest light, power, energy, flow, and ease. And I direct all are fully grounded. And I'm just going to feel into this. And this applies to anyone who does this at any point. But I'm going to send down a ground for everyone. And I basically just do this on a surrogate that I see in front of me. And it applies to everyone who's listening. Everyone is in their own field, though, where we're not all together in a big group sharing energy. Everybody gets their own field and everybody gets their own light. Okay, grounded and now connected to the New Earth grid and connected to source. So we're sending light up through the chakras to source. And it takes an extra moment when there are people that are not quite connected. So this is just a little bit longer. Okay, now we're good. And all ley lines are connected directly to pure source energy. Give that a second. Because there's a group here, it takes a little longer to get things, make sure everything's connected. All hair lines are straight, strong through the ID point. That one's a little better. Chakras are open front and back, spinning at their highest rate and speed. All aligned. This is lining them up one directly beneath the other in their appropriate alignment. Balanced. So this is when they spin, that they're balanced side to side, so they spin freely and properly. And this is where I can see, for example, the solar plexus and the sacral are a little wonky. They're not quite balanced. So we're going to balance them for right now, at least. Get everything spinning properly, and connected. And when we connect everything within the embodied field, but we also connect above the head and below the feet. There are more chakras there, and they also need to be connected in order to pull light through properly. So we're going to connect everything. All right, hold on. The solar plexus needs a little extra encouragement. Okay, are we good? Yes, okay, we're good. All right. Okay, so let me see who is coming to see us today. If there's anybody additional to who was on the list. So this is everyone who was on the list that I've already mentioned. Michael stepped forward first. Ariel, Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel. So all the archangels, the Elohim is still here. And my Arcturian is still here. It's one I work with regularly. Okay. All right. And is there anyone else? Any other energies? No. Okay. So it's the list that I gave you earlier is who is here. So let's see what we're going to do for the solar plexus. Okay. So we're looking at the chakra to start. So let's see. What are we doing, y'all? We're going to start by clearing energy. So Michael Ashtar and Metatron, Ariel, anybody else? And Ariel. Okay, so the four are going to start by clearing some energy within the chakra itself. And this just feels, usually they give me like clear visuals. Right now, they're just literally, it just feels like density. It feels like kind of a murky fog within the chakra itself. So I can't see through it. It's just kind of a dirty fog. So they are applying light to that. And let's see. Okay, so they're showing me some, so it almost looks like big warts kind of on the outside edge of the chakra. They always show me the chakra as like a tube. And then the outside is, it's odd, but it actually looks fleshy, even though obviously it's energetic, but they show it to me as like a fleshy color. And there's little bumps in that, and they're just applying light to those and kind of dissolving them. And they actually go into the structure of the chakra. So they're not just on the surface, they're kind of down inside like a wart would be, how it goes down into your skin. So they are dissolving those. And then let's see what else we're going to do. We're going to bring in some diamond light. So the diamond light consciousness is a very high vibrational creation energy. It comes in different colors. This one is, I just call it diamond light. It looks like little tiny pieces of mirror, broken mirror. And it does pretty much everything. It clears energy beautifully. It dissolves energies that don't belong. And then they return to source. So we are applying the diamond light to the solar plexus. Okay, and we're going to bring in some diamond yellow, which is like a renovation energy. It does kind of like a fixing up of the area. Renovation is a good word to apply to it. It's not a total like repair and fixing. It's more of a sprucing up. Okay, do we need other colors? Green. Interesting. Green. Haven't used green in a while. Green is a really good color for when you take energies out. I always get green as an energy that gets put back in. So it's a refurbishment kind of color. Purple is coming. Purple is, I always associate it with divine light, even though all of this is creation energy, but for whatever reason, that one feels very source related. So we're getting that, and everybody's getting the energies, and then some people will need them more than others. And if there's any energies that a particular individual doesn't need at this point in time, they just won't have an effect. They'll be there, but they won't have an effect if you don't have anything for them to cause an effect on. So it doesn't cause any harm or disturbance because it's all creation frequency. And then obviously, if you do need the work, then it applies to you. All right, see if there's more. feel like there's a little more something in there. Okay, hold on. Somebody else is coming in. The Elohim is coming in. Okay, the Elohim has been very instrumental for me personally in removing energies that don't belong in my field. We're doing, okay, they're going to do the field. And Lakshmi as well. She also has been very instrumental in clearing energy in my field. So this is the solar plexus layer of the chakra, layer of the field. So this is going to be the mental layer, which is the third layer out. So it's a little ways out from your body, probably in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 8 inches or so. And then it's probably 6 or 8 inches thick. So it encircles your entire body, and then it's connected to the solar plexus chakra. So they are doing, the Elohim and Lakshmi are working on the field. So the Elohim is going to be capturing and removing to source energies that are densities that would be considered densities that don't belong. And they're just showing me like a bunch of little blobs in the field. It's almost like dust balls is kind of what it looks like. And they're showing me the groups. So I'm seeing them kind of everywhere. So they're literally capturing those all and they're removing them to source. And then Lakshmi is going to come behind. She has this process that I call divine frequency reset, or diamond frequency reset, where she takes this diamond light and she pushes it all to the outside of the field, or in this case, it's going to be the outside of that layer. So she literally takes what looks like little pieces of mirror and just with all her hands, and she just presses them all over the outside of the field and essentially makes like a layer of diamond light all around. And I used that for months when I was having a lot of trouble with energy infiltration. Works wonders. So she's putting that there, and that also serves to filter energies that are trying to get in. So she's putting that in, and is there one more thing? One more thing. Hold on. Michael. Okay, what have you got? Okay, Michael is adding his frequency. So he has the sword, and it's not uncommon for him to just bring that sword and just kind of zap. So that's what he's doing. He's literally standing above the kind of surrogate body that I'm looking at, that I'm applying all this light to, which then goes to everybody's individual healing field that we set up. And he's literally kind of standing above and just kind of zapping with the sword. So everybody's just getting their field just filled with Michael light, which feels amazing. Okay, it's kind of making me a little shaky because it's usually pretty powerful. All right, is there more? Okay, all right, so that is what they're offering for the solar plexus for right now. Let me see. Yeah, they're done. Okay, is there any final words? No. That was actually quite a bit of energy.
Wow.
Yeah, so anytime you do energy work, you might notice like shifts in the energy. And because we cleared solar plexus, if energies are leaving, then more stuff might come up. So you might notice some weird stuff going on. Like you might feel stuff right there in your gut. When I had trouble with my solar plexus, it would feel like there were two sensations I would get. It would feel like a void, like there was a hole there when other energies were bothering me, or when other energies would come up and they'd kind of come into the empty spot where I just cleared stuff, more stuff would come up and fill it. And it would make me, it would feel like there was a hole in my gut. It was with oddest, I used to call it the void. It was the oddest feeling. And another feeling that I would sometimes get when I would remove stuff is it would feel nauseous because other energies would come up that weren't the same frequency as what was there before, and it would affect me. So if energies come up, now that we've moved all that out, you can use similar processes that we just did. Anybody can do it themselves, where you can ask any of those beings that we work with tonight. Michael's a good choice. Michael, Metatron, top choices, always when you want to move energy. And if you think there might be a galactic or quote alien component to it, ask for Ashtar, because he can remove anything that comes from off planet. And just ask them to please come and take that energy that does not feel good right there, and please capture it and remove it to source. And usually that takes care of it. Sometimes there's more than one thing. You can ask them to come back and do a few more rounds. Sometimes I do that. So, if you know you have a lot of stuff going on, like you've been dealing with your mother for 40 years, man, she's tough. And it's all right there. And because every time you go to her house, you get like this nauseous feeling or whatever, then it might be, you might need more than one. So keep that in mind, but anybody can clear this stuff. It doesn't need to be, you don't have to have someone else do it for you. You can be empowered to do it yourself. It does take a little practice, but you don't need to feel energy in order to be able to do this stuff. You can heal yourself. You can clear yourself.
And I'm going to assume drink lots of water to move stuff through the body.
Yeah.
Too, right.
Well, and the lots of water applies anytime because water carries light. So the more hydrated you are, the more light you can move through your body. And that applies to foods as well. The more light-filled foods you eat, i.e. fresh foods like fruits and vegetables that are still alive, they're still, like you put them in the window, they're going to photosynthesize some more. So those foods are going to carry more light, and they will assist you in whatever you're doing if you're working with light. And the same thing with meats. If you're eating meats, you want to eat meats that are humanely raised and humanely killed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a better word, but that's what happens. If they're conventionally raised, where they're raised in a feedlot and they're, when they're slaughtered, they're not treated properly, really low density energy in those meats. They give me a headache. Like I feel exhausted when I eat those meats. If I eat meats that are humanely raised, I get light from it because the animals were carrying light when they passed. Yeah. And you get the light. It's the same thing with the other foods. If you're eating light-filled foods, you'll feel lighter, you'll feel more energy. So light-filled foods, preferably nothing in a package because there's not much light in that.
Yeah.
And nothing that was hurt because you get that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. If it carries that fear,
it carries the fear and the stress in the meat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they've proved that scientifically, actually. Yeah. Even, it's not just the spiritual community that's figured that out.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's, along the same lines of Dr. Emoto. I mean, there's so much that, science is now
it's now
coming around to the spiritual community. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we're all like, yeah, we know that.
Yeah, we knew that.
We got that. Yeah.
So Shanaya, if anybody wants to reach out to you, I will put your information below, but just verbally go ahead and let everybody know also where they can find you.
Absolutely. The website is heartluminary.com and email is Shanaya Bevelle 3, which is my birthday, and my lucky number at gmail.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Wonderful time.
Thank
All right,
you.
my dear. Bye-bye, everybody.